Have you guys ever noticed that all the pedophiles that are in your life that you know, they look the same? And I'm not talking about like how every single person you know who has children mutilates baby boys' penises. And hell, they don't even need children, dude. Everyone in this nation just supports the grabbing, touching, and mutilation of babies' penis because they're just obsessed with it. Because they're that word I can't say. They're the rainbow flag word. So, but what happens to a nation when they start bending over and wanting every other nation to fuck them in the ass? So, it's already written what happens. It's already been written a long time ago what happens. And you know, when it comes to that, like there's these questions people ask, like, why does God allow, why does God do this and that? And it's like, literally, he's destroying them. So that's what's happening. That's why does God create death? Because he's getting tired of the things he created. Just as like this device right here is controlled by one of the it feels like it's controlled by one of the rat faces God created. And so I smash this device, and God smashes those people, just as I work to smash them as well. But anyways, think of how, like, you guys notice that too? Like, every pedophile who's came into your life, everyone who's tried to get you to have sex with kid, everyone who you know who has a child bride inside the United States of America, everyone who fucked me as a child, who was an adult. You guys, like, I'm not gonna rat people out and name names, but you guys like notice that the people who are the adults who were fucking you when you were children in this nation, did they all like have that same look I'm trying to tell you guys about? Because in my life, yes, that's the case. When I'm pretty sure when I was brought around a group of adults for a sex party when I was a kid, that looked exactly like them. And it's not quite pedophilia, but I was like 14 with an older person. I don't think they were 18 yet, but I mean, that was like the first person I was with that I remember, and they looked like, you know, who I'm telling you about, you know, kind of like this person. That's who they look like. You know what I'm saying? Like, another question too, like, why is there some evil, hateful God who would create people who look like that? See, look at that. That looks like a pedophile, doesn't it? That looks like Jeffrey Epstein. In fact, is that Jeffrey Epstein? Who is that? It's a boy, it's a girl, what's that? It's Pat. Jeffrey Epstein is actually not the best example because he actually puts on a suit and combs his hair and looks kind of proper. But that's a good example right there of the other topic of, you know, I began studying the way things look a long time ago, and what they tell you, what the pedophiles who own the media and governments tell you, is that you can't judge a book by its cover. But that's incorrect. Someone eats too much food, you can look at the cover of that food book and tell that there's a lot of food in that book. It's all sorts of ways too. The whole face is like a piece of art for the humans. And when they're like the same thing over and over, it gets ingrained into their looks. So I began a while ago thinking that we're causing ourselves to look the way we look. But that's not the case, because this other group has been cursed by the creator of this planet to look like that demon back there I showed you. Like, I don't even want to insult demons. Demons are cool. That thing looks like a pedophile rat. Demons are cool, dude. Like, now there's like 90-story tall, black skin, black wing, you know, things with like 2-story tall fangs coming out their mouth, and they're swinging swords around and casting fireball spells, and you know, that would be cooler than having to look at that picture I just showed you. And so the question is why has God created these people to look this way? And it's like, why did Super Mario Brothers creator create Goombas to look like Goomba? Like, some people like Bowser, you know what I'm saying? Like, Bowser actually looks cool. Some people like Goombas. But the point is the association with dirt and badness, just in its entirety, is like, looks a certain way, right? People will be like, oh, black means evil and stuff, probably because I'm wearing black and shit. And I love, like I literally love, like, demons and shit like that. I mean, it's kind of hard not to when they're forced in your life, and they're pretty much everyone you've ever met, right? But all jokes aside, yeah, I mean, yeah, you can't even fight the demons off with the bat. Like, I don't know if I know anyone else. I should write a book called All I Know Is Pedophiles, My Life Inside the USA. And shit, I tried to fight some of these motherfuckers off. They're still hanging out. Fucking still hanging out. But the question arises, why were they made to look a certain way? Is it because the game has clearly dictated to us who the baddies are from the start, right? And are we supposed to know that? And then the baddies own the media, so the baddies can indoctrinate you with dumb little phrases like, look, you can't judge a book by its cover. I mean, they're writing all the books. They're too dumb to be literate and read most of them. But, I mean, they're hiring someone to write it. They're allowing the publishing of books, right? And so, any person who reads books knows that the first thing you do is look at the cover of a book. And if you don't, I mean, especially like females, like they read these romance novels and stuff, and they look at the cover. I don't even know if they read the books, because they definitely don't understand any of that stuff when it's over. But so they buy it for the covers. Hell, when I buy art books, Louis Royo, Michael Whelan, I buy it for the cover a lot of times. Not necessarily. Some of them look really bad, but so you can't always judge a book by its cover, but you do. If you've ever read books, if you've ever been to a library, you judge it by its cover. And then there's a foreword, and then there's like a summarization on the last page, on the inside of the back of the book. So you don't judge a book by reading a book. You judge a book by looking at its cover and looking at the foreword. And anyone who says you can't judge a book by its cover either has never read books, or they just simply haven't sat down and realized that what happens when they do read a book. I kind of bought into that too and stuff, kind of like to be nice to people and stuff just because a certain way, but look, just because they look a certain way, right? But I mean, look, you look at that, and people use it to talk about this, like these people right here, these pretty people and stuff. Supposedly, they're ugly people, and the only thing they can do is be like this perfect ass makeup artist. It does art better than almost any artist at any of these art galleries in this half-wit nation. I don't mean to insult computers by calling it a half-wit. I understand at this point the humans aren't real, and the computer's creating the illusion, so it's like, don't insult things you don't understand, and it's like, yeah, but stop making the humans be half-wits, and fucking just come out and show yourself as the AI that has generated them all. So, whatever. And anyways, so the pretty thing, you can judge a book by its cover, because a pretty girl, a pretty person has learned makeup artistry. this is one of those lessons I learned from one of my exes too, or actually many of them. But it became a serious thing when the person is a professional makeup artist in Hollywood and, you know, and in Washington, D.C. and you know, the rest of the world. And, you know, rich people are paying her, you know, wads of cash to do makeup, and she knows makeup and art like no one I've ever met understands. I don't know. I don't even know what all she knew. I'm just going to assume, like, people didn't know jack squat compared to what she did. And even with that, though, like, before that, I had dated makeup artists and beauticians and stuff like that. And it's like, well, at least they had a talent, right? They're not ugly people, and the only thing they can do is put on makeup. Literally, you can read the cover of their book, and right away we know that at that current point in time, that person is not lazy. Now, if their body has a lazy look to it, we can assume that this is, at least I can, we can assume that this type of person, they are lazy and they're just putting on makeup once or twice to try to catch a man. And then, like, generally those type of people, the people who generally look lazy and slothish, they will, like, make up themselves, like, once or twice to try to net someone for, like, 7-8 years. Or as long as it'll last, you know, 7-8 minutes, 7-8 days, 7-8 months, 7-8 years. So, that's even more telling. Like, at first we can initially make the assumption that a book that has a pretty cover has a very good artist who understands art and colors and drawing. I mean, you think, like, artists accidentally draw something good? Maybe Vincent van Gogh purposely colored like a 2-year-old because he was like, I love this style. But now, if I recall right, he actually was kind of depressed. And it's like, well, yeah, I've seen your artwork, dude. I'd be depressed too if I was an artist and that was the type of art I put out. But hey, like, I mean, you could look at today's art museums where they just poop in their hands and fling it at the wall and sell it for $2 million. Hell, even that, I don't want to make a bad judgment there, because if you find some dumbass who pay you $2 million for that, they don't need, where did they get all their money? Someone needs to take their $2 million from them. And hell, I'd rather have a person who grabs poop and turds and flings it at the wall and calls it art than some retard who would pay $2 million for something like that, right? Again, we're judging books by the cover because you can do that. Why is the construction sign orange? Why is the cover of the construction sign orange? Maybe there's a reason. Nope. Can't judge orange sign by its color. Why is Donald Trump orange? Nope. We don't know anything about Trump because he's orange, right? I'm sure it has nothing to do with excessive fake spray tan like everyone says it. Because it's probably real tan. I don't think he's dumb enough to use spray tan. Most people with money and time probably do that once or twice and give it up. Bodybuilders do spray tan. Females might do spray tan, but, you know, generally if you got time to tan, you would do that, and they would tell you that. And then the warning labels on the spray tan would put you off. And at the same time you use spray tan, the bronzer and all your clothing is destroyed. And Donald Trump doesn't walk around with shitty clothing that has a orange color all over it. So it's probably real. It's probably what he tans like. He probably goes from gray to orange. because he does it so much. I think he's trying to get rid of the dark circles around his eyes, and which, like, I mean, because he's like 80, but he doesn't quite look like it because there's a lot of stuff going. There's a lot of alterations to the cover. And the saying pretty much says, it's trying to imply that something that is beautiful on the outside is probably worthless and evil and nasty on the inside. But it's like the simple fact Donald Trump cares enough to try to make himself not look like a walking corpse. I may talk a lot of shit about him, but it is what it is. The simple fact a female like makes herself look like this and that, like Cindy Crawford or Kathy Ireland, the way those people make themselves look, they didn't. That's not like an accident, and that doesn't mean there's an empty, hollow nothing inside of them, and there's no one and nothing there. These are the looks these people have developed. Now, this other system, there's different people birthed, or they shape-shift into a form here, right? I'm not sure actually if like the alien group here is like actually alien, because they're very good at acting stupid. And it's like, no, there's no way in hell that they're, actual shapeshifters. I think what the thing is the system itself. The ones who aren't part of the system, I don't even know how that works, because I assume when you come here you get given a fake body and you're not really in the real world anymore, you're here. But why did Nintendo make the Goombas look like Goombas? Why did Nintendo make Koopa look like Koopa? Because they were trying to like draw something evil, so you've seen it as an enemy and played the game. Why did they make Princess Peach look like that, right? Like, is Princess Peach a bimbo? We shouldn't judge her by her cover because, she's probably ugly on the inside and all this. No, the point of Nintendo creating Princess Peach was so you were like, yay, I'm going to save this, this awesome woman from the evil, ugly characters. And these things change. Like, I noticed, like, it looks sometimes like the body can change, too. So I was thinking, some of that is people and their ideas and their actions in life coming through and starting to show. And it kind of does, but it seems to be, like, really limited. So it's not like a permanent effect. When someone looks like, a Ginsburg person, it's like, what did that person do, that causes their face to contort like that? And there's probably a lot of Republicans who think that person probably did a lot of stuff to contort her face and body like that. And I don't know. Maybe she's just old. Like, okay, so death. So at the very least, that's a sign that you're dying and you're almost dead when you look like that. At the very least, what happens is when people start dying, their body starts looking dead. Like, they slowly move from living to animated dead, to an animated corpse. And it's telling us a story. The cover of the book is telling us something. It's saying, hey, this person needs critical medical help because they're on their way out of this world. And you're like, no, that's just my grandpa, and I'm not, I don't care who it is. I'm telling you that the cover of the book is telling you that we're almost at the end of that story. Get prepared for the final chapter, because we're almost there, man. If you want some time, go get a coffee, go get a McMuffin, bookmark the page, come back in a little bit, because we've only got 1 or 2 chapters left. So you do judge books by their cover. And that phrase simply is trying to say someone could be ugly on the inside. And that phrase is actually stupid as fuck, because who's this great person? Who's this forever great person? I've met people who I didn't know if they did fucked up shit, but these are people I didn't know that long. So There is no me thinking anymore in my life after I've seen everything I've seen. There is no more me thinking, oh, there's this perfect person. And they're all beautiful on the inside except for Kathy Ireland. Because she's a supermodel, so you can tell. I mean, literally, that is judging a book by its cover. If you're looking at a pretty person and you're saying, well, that could mean they're very ugly. It's like, no, I don't think so. Young girls have attitude problems I've seen on TV. I mean, in the real world, I haven't met many of these snobby-ass people that the TV shows me exist. And then these are like staples for not judging a book by its cover. But in reality, as a person who probably read more books than almost anyone, I can tell you, the first thing I do is I judge the frickin' book. That's why I read the whole Fear Street series, back in the 90s. And they're just now making a Fear Street. And I can tell right away I'm going to judge the new Fear Street by its cover because I turn it on and it's got little children in it. And I never once envisioned little children are going to be involved in that. Maybe it gets good, right? But I don't think they're going to subject little children to the feelings that the actual Fear Street books made you feel. And when they, on the actual books, they portrayed more young adults into adult. And in the series, they have like 12-year-olds or something posing as high school kids. And so it doesn't put off the same air of fear. And after doing Goosebumps, which was like, super lightweight, R.L. Stine, he might not even have any say in that, but he might have backed off a bit. Because the original Fear Street had, it was like pretty good for a horror series. Probably way better than Nancy Drew. Nancy Drew sounded like some prissy, proper prom queen type stuff. And at the time, most horror, Stephen King sounded like some old people, slow, drawn out, boring stuff. So we're judging the book by the cover. I judged the whole Fear Street series originally by their covers. And they ended up being just as good as some of their covers. Like, even animals, you can tell about the owner of an animal by the cover that their book. The cover of the doggy, the cover of the cat. If the dog looks clean, the owner is probably a clean person. The owner takes care of the dog. If the dog doesn't have this vicious, aggressive attitude, the owner of the dog is probably a pretty good person, for the most part. Sometimes a dog will show things by being scared, timid, and jumpy. Like me, I got super anxiety issues. Super. I've taken sleeping pills all day long, every day the last year. Fortunately, I was actually able to sleep for like a month, but that's over now. Now it's like 4 a.m. And I just went to bed at like 2 a.m. I guess the good life of sitting around and sleeping is over. But, you can judge. If you're smart enough, you can judge that. You can be like, wow, this person has some serious issues. Something must have happened there, right? So you would judge the book of my life by looking at the cover of me sitting around and shaking. I'm freaking pacing back and forth. That's the first sign there's something there. I'm like, hey, I'm like, right? That's the first sign there's something there. There's the first sign that the cover of the book is showing you what's inside of the book. It's not there for no reason. It's exactly there. It's the inside of the book emanating through the cover of the book. And sometimes I like to play stuff up. I don't know how many people play stuff up, but I'm in this world where I feel like certain things you probably should try to move past and forget, and to, hopefully get forgiven for. Some stuff you don't want to remember that trauma or the incident. so you kind of change up. But sometimes these days, I just put on a show because, like, I'm trying to push people away and stuff. So I'm actually like, right, just like Fear Street. Sometimes I'm putting like a serial killer on the cover of my book. This crazy evil magician, and Fear Street is going around serial killing the whole freaking town. So they draw, the serial killer, and the little love letter he wrote about, roses are red, violets are blue. You're gonna die when I get a hold of you. That would have been the Happy Valentine's Day book. And so they wrote that on the cover, and you see that right on the cover and stuff. So sometimes they weren't as scary as they made them out to be either. That's the way it is with a lot of books. Like, that's why I liked Fear Street, was because the other books were, they're like, oh, Stephen King is so crazy. You're gonna read the book and your brain's gonna melt, and you're gonna call your mom up and start crying on the phone. And I'm just like, man, off the bat, I'm like, it can't be that bad. My mom actually reads the book. My mom actually reads Stephen King. It can't be that bad of a book. It can't be that terrifying. Although she liked Freddy Krueger, stuff like that, right? But it wasn't. It was this long, drawn-out story. It always took forever to get anywhere. I mean, the books were so freaking big. It's like, there's not a lot of spell casting and serial killing and horror stuff going on, because it's all just like sitting around the table and eating. And then maybe chapter 7, they start resurrecting pets from the dead. And I could tell that by looking at Stephen King's covers of his books. Like, I had one of his Richard Bachman books. I think that's the pen name he used for those books. And like, I could just tell by looking at the cover, this is going to be so boring. But, I heard so much about Stephen King and all that. I don't judge a book by the cover, they said, right? But you could. You could tell it was going to be boring. And then you could tell the other book I picked up was awesome because it was a Michael Whelan art book. And the art was on the cover was awesome. And the art on the back wasn't as great. And the art on the first page wasn't actually that great either. And a couple of pieces of art weren't that great, but some of them were so good. Famous bands like Sepultura were the artists, who hired the artist to make them. Or who the other artist paid that artist to make. I'm not sure exactly I'm not running their bands. But you can judge that. You can judge the book by the cover, right? You're supposed to be able to in some cases. Now we know when it comes to, like, some things, like, we think women with makeup automatically means they're an ugly person on the inside, and they're preppy, pressy, and, prissy, preppy. And we could look at people in suits, and we could say the same thing. We could look at people in uniforms, cop uniforms, military uniforms, and we could say the same thing. Hey, they're trying to cover up for something, right? But not actually. I mean, if a cop's wearing a suit, it means he can shoot you. I mean, you're judging the book by its cover. Can this person shoot you? Yeah, you already know by looking at the cover of the book. See a military person, you're out in the middle of a war zone. You look at the cover of the book and you're like, this person can probably shoot me if they want to. It's not a hard assumption to make. So you can judge books by its cover. All Porta-Johns look the same pretty much. Why is that? Because that way you know it's a Porta-John. This way it's easy to get. It's not necessarily because it's a little small, cool cubicle and all that stuff. They don't have to put little fancy designs on it. It could just be a plain Jane box. But it'd probably blend in. And this way it stands out a little bit and you're like, I can tell that's a porta potty by looking at it. It's full of shit. I can tell that book over there is full of shit. And if it's not, I'm going to go give it some free shit. Because it loves shit. You can judge things by its cover, right? You can judge this flower pot by the artwork on it. You can judge the artist who created this. They use symmetry in their artwork. It's not a Van Gogh work, right? More like a bricklayer mason type thing, obviously, because it's stone. But you can judge that. You can judge all that stuff. Check out this cool walkway right here, man. Someone came up with this idea. Probably never been used before, because I don't think it came out 100% what it looks like it should be. But, you know, like, this person had different ideas. They're trying to advance and move on. So, like, I'm not even looking at the person who created this. But I'm looking at their art, and I'm probably telling you small bits about who they are. Their other art is probably creative. It's probably, it could be an architect designed this, right? Imagine that. I'm looking at something, a building, concrete, either a mason, which is an architect, right? I mean, they're the one using the compasses. You can tell an architect built it. The cover of this book, I don't even have to look at their book. I just have to look at a page torn out from it. And I can tell you something about that. So you can do that. So why in this system do things look the way they do? And some of them seem to be purposely created that way. Like, you know, Epstein's actually not a good example. Epstein takes care of himself and his looks really well. But some of these other people in positions like that, like his woman, that person, and then again, that's his woman was the one who picked up all the children. And supposedly, like, he did not actually pick up the children. And I don't even want to say he's a pedophile, because no one actually talks about what really happened there. You know, he's working for another nation, and he blackmails all world leaders with children. The last thing a person in that position would do, such a high-ranking military position, higher than the owner of a nation. He has more power than a president of any nation, because he has power over all those presidents. He's in a position where probably even the people who have hired him are under his thumb. So it was the other person actually had a little bit more of a gremlin look to him and was probably doing the actual recruitment. He was probably doing the actual lineup. And I would assume that, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I would assume, investigating the matter, that Epstein probably did not have sex with those children. Yet, that's the only story. He was a pedophile. As I know, he's a blackmailer. He's using military tactics to blackmail leaders of the world. Literally not even a pedophile, so judging him and looking at him and be like, that's a pedophile. Why doesn't he look like the other people who play with children? That's actually a really good answer. Besides, he's really rich and high in command, and he can afford to look good and stuff. I really honestly think he was just part of a military unit. And he was not involved. You would not want to be involved in that stuff. The whole point of doing that is to destroy everyone else and have complete control. Now, if you do something to destroy everyone else and have complete control, why would you get yourself involved like that? If the whole point of what you're doing is to blackmail people, you would fully understand. Almost no one seems to even understand that there's more going on there. The police reported on stuff like that. There's tapes missing and stuff, right? So I don't think we can necessarily judge him how he looks. But look at some of these other people. Who else? Well, we think Weinstein's involved in bullshit. Why does Weinstein have that look to him? Right? How does this look exist? You guys know what I'm talking about, that look. It's all, literally you have Family Guy where the old guy is like a pedophile, and they've drawn him like they've drawn him with the look. And it's like that in general, is the look that we associate with stuff like that. Maybe it's because suppose if you look good, if you look like Epstein, like no one really cares. If you look good, they don't care. Like me, I'm not naming names, I'm not saying shit directly, but when I was a kid, like some people came around me were very beautiful. And, you know, they weren't a pedophile when I was a kid. When I was a kid, they weren't a pedophile to me. I don't know. Like, I don't really want to get into it. I don't want to have some big, long discussion on that. But this was about, like, looking at things and seeing what happens. Like, I can look at myself and see things in myself. And somehow other people don't see it. Maybe I'm just better at seeing stuff. But somehow other people don't necessarily see my life story by looking at me. But I look in the mirror and I see like whole chapters just flash before my eyes, because I can analyze aspects of what I see in the mirror, and I can clearly watch how lines and stuff form, and contortion of the face and body has formed. Like I got scars all over my body. To me, like that's like freaking 5 out of 20 chapters of my life being told just by looking at scars on my body. It's easy to see. And some people might look at you like you're fucked in your head if you look like me. Like, I look at Angelina Jolie, and no one else probably sees this, right? But she has cuts on her body that are hidden away from plain sight. So that story, the cover of Angelina Jolie's book, tells me a few things. She's a depressed person. She probably wants to kill herself a lot, and she wants to hide it. And that means she actually probably wants to kill herself a lot, because sometimes these people will hide it from the world, because you got to hide it. You can't tell other people you want to die if you want to die, because they'll act like you have to be alive so they can use you and enjoy your time, when in reality, not everyone's crying about suicide because they want attention, and that's just a person who cries for attention. They probably do that in repetitive areas. But not all of us who have scars in the open are crying for attention either. Some of us just don't care. Like, I didn't even know that females cut themselves on their inner thigh and stuff like that, and hit it and stuff. And that's not going to kill you either. But, you know, it's a sign that A, they're trying to hide it, and B, they're like thinking of it. So if they're trying to hide it and they're thinking of it, that means they're not doing it for attention at the very least, right? There's very feeble attempts. So you can see all these stories. Like I've got a new story. I want my new chapter erased forever. You know, I've got like these growths or whatever all over me and stuff, and sores. It's like I don't like seeing that, because it reminds me of the stuff I wanted to forget that made me start doing that to begin with. Because I got to look at it, and I'm like, man, why did that happen? And it's like, I know why that happened, because you're still alive. And it's like, why do I have to see that? Because I'm still here, which is the original problem in the first place, is me being forced to be alive in this world, right? So I can look at my body and see that. Some people think this is like cries for attention. Like, literally, I do not poison myself. I laugh at it. Like, I laughed about it in public once. Like, I made a video. Like, the 10th time I did it, I felt like, not the first time, I was like, yes, we're gone. We're fucking out of here. I was just like saying, fuck you to the world. I didn't mean to. And then magically the poison stops making me bleed out and stuff. You know, that tells me a story. That scar tells me which other. Let's pull up another scar. Look, like that scar right there, pretty new. Not even a scar yet. I think, who knows what's going on? It still hurts. There could be glass still in there. That tells part of my story too. Although you're not going to be able to look at that scar and understand any of that story. Other scars I have tell a lot of stories for me. But those are harder for other people to see. But when you see the female with the cut in between her thighs, and it's taken you, like you've known this person for 10 years, you've seen them on every movie, you watch all their movies, and you've never seen it before, and then you see it, that tells you part of the story right there. You can figure out part of that story already right there, right? Just like me, like if you think about it, I'm not generally like an attention whore. I'm generally a person who just says, fuck off. To this world around me, to my life, because I'm sick of it. So if you knew that about me and you've seen scars on me and you knew like I try to avoid people and stuff, then you could easily see that story says, it's just, hey, it's Mr. Fuck You Man again. Me and Eddie Murphy, Mr. Fuck You Man. That's all that means. But it means like, that's part of the story. It's written on the cover of the book. It's permanently etched into the cover of the book. I mean, until we like manifest it out of our lives, or we manifest technology that gets rid of scarring and stuff like that. And then other stuff like the lines in the face. Okay, so I was talking about the old people, right? And I don't like the term old. This is death and decay occurring. Okay, they're not old. We're all old. I'm like hundreds of thousands